A shepherd in David's world did not carry a stick because it looked nice. He carried a club, the head studded with nails or sharpened stones, because somewhere out in the dark, a lion or a bear was going to come for the flock, and he was the only thing standing between them and it. He did not sleep through the night either. Many sheepfolds had no door at all, just a gap in a low stone wall, so the shepherd lay down across that gap himself and became the gate. Anything that wanted in had to go through him first. That is the man standing behind the first word of this psalm, shepherd. You have heard, the Lord is my shepherd. So many times it may have stopped meaning anything at all. So before we read it, forget the soft version you already have in your head. Picture the club. Picture the man who does not sleep. Then stay for verse 4, because right there, in the middle of 6 short verses, the way David speaks to God changes completely. He stops describing God from a distance and starts speaking straight to his face. We are not there yet. Watch for it. We are the called. Stay awake. Stay with us. We read this as it was written. Psalm 23. Yahweh is my shepherd. I shall lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and loving kindness shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in Yahweh's house forever. This psalm carries David's name, and shepherding was David's own first job, the work handed to the youngest son, while his older brothers went off to matter. First, Samuel records what that job actually required of him, in his own words, when he stood in front of King Saul. Your servant was keeping his father's sheep, and when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, I went out after him, struck him, and rescued it out of his mouth. When he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, struck him, and killed him. 1 Samuel 17:34-36, World English Bible. That is not a poet's exaggeration. That is a resume. Green pastures and still waters, in verse 2, are not scenery description. They are labor. Much of the land David grew up in was dry, rocky hill country. Grass and water did not sit waiting in the open for a flock to wander into. A shepherd had to search the terrain and lead the sheep to it, sometimes for miles. And sheep will not drink from moving water. The current frightens them. A good shepherd had to find water that was actually still, or make it still, before the flock would touch it. Verse 4 names 2 separate tools, and they did 2 separate jobs. The rod, Hebrew shevet, was the short, heavy club, the weapon for anything that came to kill. The staff, Hebrew mishanet, was the longer tool with a curved hook, used to guide the flock and to hook a sheep back from the edge of a cliff or out of thorns it had wandered into. One tool for what attacks you. One tool for what you do to yourself. David says both of them are comforting. The banquet in verse 5 has a documented shepherding practice behind part of it, though this next point is disputed among scholars, so hold it loosely. Some interpreters connect the table to elevated tableland pastures, shepherds sought out in summer, ground high and open enough that predators could be seen coming from a distance. Others read verse 5 simply as a literal image of hospitality. A host preparing a meal for a guest, even while a rival watches. Both readings agree on what matters most. David pictures being cared for, in open view of the very things that threaten him, not hidden away from them. The last line of that verse, "You anoint my head with oil," is also drawn from ordinary shepherding, not just royal ceremony. Sheep are plagued by nose flies that lay eggs around their nostrils and faces. The irritation can drive a sheep to rub and butt its head against rocks hard enough to injure itself. Shepherds regularly rubbed oil on the heads of their sheep to repel the insects and soothe the skin. David takes an ordinary, repeated act of physical care, the kind an animal cannot even understand as care while it is happening, and hands it to God as a description of what he does for him. Read the first 3 verses again, and notice how David talks about God. He makes me lie down. He leads me. He restores my soul. He guides me. Third person. A shepherd being described from a comfortable distance, true but observed, like David is talking about someone rather than to someone. Then, verse 4, the valley of the shadow of death. And in that exact sentence, without any announcement, the grammar flips. For you are with me, not he, you. David stops describing God and starts speaking directly to him, face to face. And he does it at the single darkest point in the whole psalm, not the brightest. This is not incidental. It is the structure of the entire poem. Comfort in the green pasture is described. Presence in the valley is addressed. The closer the danger, the more direct the voice becomes. The Hebrew behind shepherd in verse 1 is roe, one who feeds and tends a flock, a word used across the Old Testament for kings and leaders responsible for a people, not only for animals. David, a former shepherd himself, chooses that exact word for God, and then spends 6 verses proving he means the job, not the job title. Most people can describe God from a distance without much trouble. He is good. He is faithful. He is present. Verses 1 through 3, comfortably. Verse 4 is the harder move. It is the difference between talking about someone at a dinner party and turning to look them in the eyes when the room goes dark. So here is the question this psalm leaves you with tonight. Whatever valley you happen to be walking through right now, are you still describing him from across the room, or are you willing to say you instead of he out loud in the dark part of your own story? Leave a comment, not a Bible answer, just the honest one. What's the valley you're actually in this week? One passage at a time, uncut. Exactly as written. 66 books. We're 3 passages in. If this is the word you've been looking for, subscribe and stay awake with us. The Most High dwelleth not in temples made with hands, Acts 7:48. For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. Romans 10:13. We are the called. Stay awake. Stay with us.